this is my review of Sonic X. Okay, so I'm all caught up on some of the shows that I need to review, which means we can get back into Sonic X. And this episode is actually an interesting one to come back to. So, it starts off with Sonic doing a patrol through the streets, and he's quickly noticing that there are a lot of people who have somewhat taken to his behavior. There are people lazing about on rooftops and in trees. People are dyeing their hair blue to actually look a bit more like Sonic, and some of them have actually started sculpting statues of Sonic out of wood. Case in point, Sonic runs into his quote-unquote fan club in the park, and they all chase after him, and he kind of just runs off, pointing out that he doesn't really have time to deal with them right now. But then it cuts to Nelson Thorndyke, who is currently working at his, apparently he owns and runs his own appliance company. I don't remember that being a thing, but apparently it is. But he's currently working at his appliances and is approving some decisions. At which point his secretary comes in saying that she has a bunch of complaint forms that he needs to fill out and sign. And he asks her to bring them in, only to discover that there are these massive stacks of forms and requests that people have put in, and he wonders why they're so backed up on all the requests. At which point she merely turns on the news, and remarks that, and as it turns out, as I've just explained, Sonic Mania has just kind of taken over. Everybody's a big fan of Sonic. Everybody loves Sonic, and a lot of people have actually started quitting their jobs to be more like Sonic. So, and when Nelson points out that he doesn't see how the two are actually connected. As it turns out, Sonic's lazy behavior has caused some people has caused a lot of people to quit their jobs and start emulating Sonic. And one of the side effects is that some of the workers have actually started lazing about on the job as well, which has caused their appliances to come out a little bit shoddy out of the gate, which in turn has caused consumer complaints to skyrocket. And obviously Nelson is a little bit upset by that, because as he points out, it's a little bit dangerous for the reputation to slide this much because of Sonic. And to make matters worse, he then gets a call from Ella on his personal phone, and as it turns out, Chris has the sniffles and is sick. So not only does he have to deal with an appliance problem that's sort of caused by Sonic, but also because he realizes that his son needs him, and he decides to rush home and asks some of his complaints department to get right on filling out all the requests and making sure they all get filled. Meanwhile, back at the prison where Dr. Eggman is, if you guys remember, he was arrested. He's actually working on fixing all of Nelson Thorndyke's appliances that have come back broken. And he's actually the one that's personally responsible for that. And while Deco and Boko are quick to point out that he needs to slow down, pointing out that he can't continue to just do this indefinitely because they can't give him appliances fast enough. As he points out, it is actually indeed Sonic's fault. Because of Sonic, we've established this, but because of Sonic, the appliances are coming back broken, which means they're all getting sent to the prison where the prisoners are actually supposed to take them apart and put it back together. And since Dr. Eggman is well and away the smartest guy at the prison, he's the only really guy qualified enough to do it. So he's the one who's kind of been taking most of the workload himself. He's been forced to fix all of these appliances himself. So obviously he blames Sonic for that, because Sonic is sort of indirectly responsible. But as Dr. Eggman points out, that this is only part of his master plan, and that he's going to use this as an opportunity to get revenge on Sonic for basically not only getting him stuck in prison, but also causing it so that he has to constantly repair machines. And actually reveals that he has a little chip that he created, and that it's going to spell Sonic's end by the end of the day. At which point all of the appliances begin to ship out, and I think you can see where this is going. But in case Nelson is then proceeds to go through on his private helicopter, and on his way home he actually picks up Lindsay, who has been shooting an action scene for one of her movies. And while she's a little upset that once again Nelson has once again bothered her at work, and since she previously told him not to bother her unless it's important, he merely tells her that Chris is sick, and she immediately drops everything to go see him. But in case back at the house, Ella actually gets her vacuum back, which apparently was out for repairs. And she returns to Chuck and the others, who are currently eating lunch with Cream and her mother. And Chuck actually ultimately remarks that he's a bit sorry about how all of the appliances have just been coming back broken. And as he points out, he would have done it himself, but he's been working on trying to figure out what's wrong with Emerald. At which point Cream asks what exactly is wrong with Emerald, and he merely responds that Emerald is fine, but all of his databanks have been wiped, so he doesn't really understand what's going on with Emerald. It seems like he doesn't really know who or what he is. At which point Cream declares that she'll look after him like Ella looks after her. And Vanilla remarks that that's ultimately a very beautiful thing. But in case Chuck then proceeds to ask Ella how Chris is actually doing, and she remarks that Chris is actually feeling better, and he'll actually be better within the day. And they then proceed to go and check up on him. And ask him how he's feeling, and he's actually feeling a little bit better. But as he's telling them that he's feeling better, his parents actually come in on the private helicopter, and then they proceed to basically smother him because they were worried about him, and they were worried that he was gonna be sick, but that he'll ultimately get better. And while Chris is more than happy to see his parents, Chuck's more than a little annoyed at his son because obviously because of the appliance thing. He points out that Nelson isn't really setting a good example for his son, pointing out that not only are the appliances going completely haywire, and all of the appliances from Thorndike Industries are going completely haywire, but on top of that, Nelson, their CEO, just kind of took a day off work just to make sure his son was feeling better. And Nelson fires back, pointing out that it's Sonic's fault, but Chuck kind of leaps into the fence, Sonic, pointing out that he shouldn't be blaming others for his own shortcomings. At which point Chris decides to break up the whole fight, pointing out that they really shouldn't be, or that he doesn't really want them arguing, and if that's the only reason that his parents came home, that he doesn't really want them there for that. Chuck and Nelson ultimately apologize. However, as they're arguing upstairs, downstairs, we actually see Ella's vacuum cleaner reassemble itself, and it actually starts placing Eggman's chips on all of the major appliances in the house. At which point the family decides that the best way to actually mend their sour mood is to actually make a pie, and Lindsay decides to lead the charge into the kitchen. Point out that they have everything except the cherries, and proceeds to go into the fridge to go and get some, only to discover that the fridge isn't opening by itself. And everybody remarks that that's actually a little bit odd. At which point the batter mixer actually comes to life and tries to attack them, and Nelson sees it coming from a mile away and knocks Lindsay and Ella to the floor to make sure that they actually don't get hurt by it, and it then burrows its way into the refrigerator. Sonic eventually does show up when he realizes that the appliances are coming to life, and everybody notes that it's a little bit odd. And he starts fighting off the appliances, and Amy joins in, smacking the fridge around because it has also subsequently come to life, and is trying to keep it from actually attacking her and their friends. And as they're doing all this, Emerald actually observes Sonic and scans him, and actually picks up his ability to do a dash boost. And while they're actually busy with the appliances downstairs, Chris is actually being attacked by a giant assembly of appliances upstairs. And Emerald actually goes to save him using Sonic's dash boost that he literally just scanned 5 seconds ago. And obviously, Chris initially mistakes Emerald for Sonic, since Sonic is the only one who can do a dash boost. But but when Sonic comes in like 5 minutes later and has no idea what Triss is talking about, it's clear that Emerald has actually picked up Sonic's ability and has actually started using it for his own. At which point the rest of the appliances actually begin to barge their way upstairs. And Sonic and Emerald, unwittingly or not, decide to team up to actually bring down the appliances. And eventually their fighting actually results in some of the appliances catching fire and setting off the sprinkler system in the house, which causes all the appliances to shut down. At which point Sonic realizes that the only way to actually deal with these appliances is to get them soaked, and that's the only way to bring them down. And ultimately decides that he needs to go out and do his thing, since he quickly realizes that without the appliances, that if the appliances are actually are all imbued with Eggman's chip, since he was the one who repaired them, then the rest of the city is completely in trouble. And case in point, he winds up being right, because all the appliances are now just running amok and trying to attack their owners. So Sonic decides to actually embark out and go save them, mainly because the sprinkler system has begun to shut down, because the appliances have since figured out that they're weak to water. And to that end, decide to shut down the water supply at Thorndyke Industries to make sure that none of the appliances can be short-circuited anymore. So Sonic then proceeds to head out and starts fighting off appliances, and even stops by the fire department, telling them that water is the only way to actually harm them. And the fire department agrees to help Sonic fight, pointing out that that they've already got several trucks inbound and that they're going to start working on cleaning out all the appliances. Meanwhile, Nelson decides that he should actually spring into action as well, pointing out that ultimately it's his fault the appliances are hurting people, and that customer service has always been Thorndyke Industries' thing. So with that, he realizes that he needs to actually step up, stop blaming people for his own shortcomings, and actually work to fix the problem that he caused. And Chuck finally makes up with his son and realizing that his son is finally taking responsibility, tells Amy and Tails to get him in the X-Tornado and take him wherever he needs to go. And with that, they then proceed to head to the main water supply in Thorndyke Industries. Meanwhile, Sonic is cleaning up the appliances, making sure that they can't hurt anybody, and even telling some of the civilians to actually gather as much water as they can so they can short-circuit the appliances. At which point he sees Knuckles fighting a group of appliances by himself and decides to join in. And Knuckles is happy for the help, pointing out that he's literally being attacked by everything but the kitchen sink. And they then proceed to fight back against the appliances. Meanwhile, while all of this is going down, Dr. Eggman actually winds up getting busted out of prison by Bokoon, who I thought had been arrested by apparently he's not, but apparently he's fine and hasn't been arrested. But he's able to actually bust Dr. Eggman, Rico, and Boko out of prison, and they then proceed to get into Dr. Eggman's little flying egg ship thing, and then proceed to go back to Times Square, even taking a bit of time to actually change clothes. And then they eventually arrive. They do eventually arrive at Station Square and openly mock Sonic and Knuckles for their efforts, pointing out that they can't actually fight, that they're never actually going to be able to fight back against his appliance, since he has an infinite supply of them, and they're never going to be able to defeat them, since water is the only thing that can actually keep them down. Meanwhile, Tails, Amy, and Nelson actually arrive at Thorndyke Industries, and Nelson then proceeds to make his way to the main power supply system, and he's able to actually reboot the water supply, but as he points out, the main sluice gate has actually been jammed for some unknown reason, and points out that they're not going to be able to re-enable the water the old-fashioned way. At which point he calls up Chuck and tells him what's going on, and Chuck merely responds that he'll take care of it. At which point Chris actually asks his mother if he can actually go with them, pointing out that he's feeling better well enough that he can actually go and help. And while Lindsay ultimately wants to baby her son, pointing out that he's still sick, she ultimately decides that he's big enough to actually make his own decisions, and agrees that he can go and help his grandfather with actually opening up the water supply again, on the grounds that she goes with him. And she agrees to that, and they ultimately arrive at the secondary pump for the water supply, which is a giant turn crank, and they ultimately decide that since the main sluice gate is shut down and they can't actually open it up again. The only other option is to open up this secondary sluice gate and pour all the water in. And while they do take turns taking the wheel and using their brute strength to actually pull the wheel open, it's not enough because they actually don't have enough people. Meanwhile, Sonic and Knuckles are still funding appliances, but as Eggman begins to point out, they seem to be retired and that it's only a matter of time before they're finally defeated. And even Sonic and Knuckles point out that they're tired as well, with Knuckles pointing out that he can't go on for much longer, and Sonic merely complaining that he's tired. Although Bokoon ultimately does remark that it seems that while they are tired, he is a little bit surprised that they're able to actually bring down so many robots by themselves. So while Bokoon is not really on their side, he can't help but be impressed by how many appliances they're able to take down despite being tired. But eventually, the X-Tornado does arrive at the secondary sluice gate, in which, much to the rest of the group's joy. At which point Nelson, Tails, and Amy actually get out, and they actually help push open the gate, pointing out that it's clear that they need some help. And with that, they actually open up the secondary sluice gate, and everybody has the water supply. Everybody has with a fresh water supply is able to actually finish off the appliances, and Sonic and Knuckles are able to take down the appliances using water. And Dr. Eggman is ultimately a little confused and upset, pointing out that they should have disabled the main water supply and that he's a little surprised that the water is still operational. But ultimately remarks that he is upset because they got so close to defeating Sonic, but remarks that he'll actually be back to actually finish Sonic off once and for all, and then proceeds to leave. At which point it then cuts back to Nelson and the others actually celebrating their job well done about how they were able to defeat the appliances. And Nelson remarks that from now on he's actually going to be a bit more careful, pointing out that it was ultimately his fault that the appliances got this way, and he's going to be a lot more diligent to make sure all of the quality doesn't go down ever again, so that they don't wind up going to selling out the parts to Dr. Eggman to fix. And Nelson then points out that as long as he keeps on it, it'll be a piece of cake. Although Chris makes some remark that it'll actually be a piece of pie, since they were supposed to have pie earlier in the episode and they decided to make that kind of joke, and then they all laugh, and that's how the episode ends. But in any case, yeah, this episode does showcase a little bit of Dr. Eggman actually breaking out of prison, so that little side arc was resolved pretty quickly. But more to the point, this episode actually showcases Emerl's ability to copy the abilities of others. Case in point, it copied Sonic's abilities and was able to use them to fight back against the appliances. And that's a little weird, and that's something that we've already seen that. We knew that Emerl could actually copy abilities based on his previous fight with Sonic, but now we know that while he doesn't really remember any of his previous life, he still has the ability to adapt and take more people's abilities in. So that's going to be interesting to watch, because with Emerl's ability to copy abilities, it's only a matter of time before he copies something that he's not supposed to and is going to cause problems for people around him. But for right now, that's just going to have to wait, and we're just going to have to stick a pin in it. So that's my review of Sonic X. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to dimensional perks that I'm always saying thanks. So be sure to check those out in the description below as well. Also, go support me on Twitch. I've been streaming regularly over there every Sunday at 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys want to go check that out, by all means, go do that. We've actually been streaming Miitopia for the past couple of weeks. I'm probably going to continue streaming it until I finish it. This coming Sunday, we're going to again stream it. So if you guys want to check that out, by all means, go ahead. Link is in the description. And also, finally, if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent video. It may or may not be this one. Whereas the bottom video was the video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So, if you want to try something new, or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both of those videos out. But, regardless of whether or not you do any or all of those things, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!